Good day, everyone. We are the Human Fetus Development Expert Group, and today we are going to discuss the stages that are involved in the human fetal development. Let's start. So, the human fetal development has three stages. We have the germinal stage, the embryonic stage, and the fetal stage. And as a type of recalling to the first group's topic, they already discussed the first stage of human fetal development, which is the germinal stage. The germinal stage begins at conception when the sperm and egg cell unite in one of the two fallopian tubes. The fertilized egg is called a zygote, and just a few hours after conception, the single-cell zygote begins making a journey down the fallopian tube to the uterus. Then, through the process of mitosis, the zygote first divides into two cells, then into 4, 8, 16, and so on. The cell division continues until the cells develop into what is known as blastocyst. And at this point, the beginning of the third week after conception marks the start of the embryonic stage, a time where the blastocyst becomes distinct as a human embryo. The embryonic stage lasts through the 8th week following fertilization or after conception. By the end of the embryonic stage, the basic structures of the major organs and body systems are established, and the embryo begins to take on a more recognizable human shape. Here, we have the development of the embryo in the span of 3 to 8 weeks, or its gestational age during the embryonic stage. Gestational age is a common term used during pregnancy to describe how far along the pregnancy is. It is measured in weeks from the first day of the woman's last menstrual cycle to the current date. In simple words, it is based on the date of the last period, not the date of conception. Because of this, a person is usually considered at least 4 weeks pregnant by the time they actually miss a period and have a positive pregnancy test. By week 3, we can see here in the drawing the actual size of the embryo. It is as small as a dot or period. And during this week, the embryo goes through a process of rapid development. The embryo undergoes the process of gastrulation, where the 3 primary layers of cells that form the body are created. This includes the endoderm, the mesoderm, and the ectoderm. The endoderm is the foundation for the digestive and respiratory systems, and the mesoderm forms the muscles, bones, and circulatory system. And the ectoderm forms the nervous system and skin. Additionally, the neural tube forms during this time, the precursor for the brain and spine. Next, in the 4th week, the embryo continues to grow rapidly and undergoes significant development. The embryo is now a little more than 1 centimeter long and is beginning to take on a more recognizable shape. One of the most important developments is the development of the heart, which starts to beat and pump blood throughout the embryo's body. Other significant development during this week include the formation of the eyes, brain, and spinal cord, among other important structures. And by this time, most pregnancy tests that are done in a clinic are positive. In the 6th week, the embryo is about 1/4 of an inch long. The head and upper body are well developed, and the basic body structure like the eyes and limb buds, or the structures that will become arms and legs, begin to form and appear. The heart also becomes in a tabular form, and the neural tube has finally formed, which will give rise to the brain and the spinal cord. The umbilical cord also begins developing. And by the last week of embryonic stage, during the 8th week, the embryo has all of the basic organs and parts except those of the sex organs. At this point, the embryo weighs just 1 gram and is about 1/2 inch or 1 inch long. The lungs begin to form, as well as the lymphatic system. The main development of the external genitalia begins, and the brain continues to develop. The arms and legs have grown longer, and the foot and hand areas can be clearly distinguished. The hands and feet have fingers and toes, but may still be webbed. There is also the amniotic sac, or also known as the bag of waters, which surrounds the embryo. The fluid within the amniotic sac protects the embryo, and it typically ruptures or breaks during labor or shortly before, a process often referred to as water breaking, which is a sign that delivery is right around the corner. So next we have the fetal stage, which will be reported by the next reporter.
So next, let's tackle about the fetal development. Fetal development is divided into three main stages: the germinal stage, the embryonic stage, and the fetal stage. Each stage marks significant changes in the growth and development of the baby. The stages of fetal development at 9 weeks birth. During this stage, the fetus will continue to develop organs including the brain and spinal cord. This stage extends from the beginning of the 9th week after fertilization to about 38 weeks after fertilization, which is the average time of birth. The fetal stage lasts a total of approximately 30 weeks. At this stage, the fetus is about 6 inches long. Between weeks 9 and 12, the fetus will begin to make movements with their arms and legs. It's also during this stage that sex organs will begin to differentiate. Gender can usually be determined around 18 to 20 weeks by ultrasound or earlier if you require genetic testing. At 10 weeks development, during this period, the embryo reaches a transition point. It is now called a fetus, a Latin word meaning young one or offspring. The head is about half the size of the fetus and the tail has disappeared. The fetus now has a distinct human appearance. Arms, legs, fingers, and toes are distinctly visible. The first real bone cells begin to replace the cartilage and the eyelids are formed. At 12 weeks development, the eyelids fuse together. The fingernails are developing. Between 10 to 12 weeks, the fetus begins small, random movements that are too slight to be felt by the mother. The fetal heartbeat can be detected electronically. All major body organs are formed although they are not able to function outside of the uterus, and the placenta is complete. At 14 weeks development, the fetus is able to swallow and the kidneys are able to make urine. Blood begins to form in the bone marrow and the fetus now sleeps and awakens. It has movement of arms, legs, head, and neck. The mouth of the fetus is able to open and close. The arms are in proportion to the body and the fetus is about 3.5 inches long and weighs about 1.5 ounces. At 16 weeks development, by this age, it is possible to distinguish the sex of the fetus. The head is erect and the legs are developing. Fine hair called lanugo has begun to grow on the head, and the fetus is about 5 to 6 inches long and weighs about 3 to 4 ounces. At 18 weeks development, the body and facial features of the fetus are now recognizable, and the fetus is able to respond to sound. The nose, lips, and ears can be recognized at this stage, and the scalp hair is present. A fetus at this age will be unable to survive if born prematurely, because it is much too small and the organs are too immature. The fetus is about 6 inches long and weighs about 4.5 ounces. At 20 weeks development, the oil glands in the skin called sebaceous glands begin to work. The mother will be able to feel the fetus move, kick, and punch. The movements are sometimes described as feeling like movement of butterfly wings or bubbles. This is called quickening. The fetus has been observed to do the thumb sucking on ultrasound. The fetus at this stage has the reflex ability to suck and grasp. It may also experience hiccup. At 22 weeks development, 2 nails have begun to develop. By 22 weeks, the lower limbs are fully formed. Head and body hair called lanugo thickly covers the fetus. The fetus is about 9 inches long and weighs about 1 pound. At 24 weeks development, the fetus begins to gain weight steadily but still appears scrawny. The skin is typically wrinkled and red. The head is still quite large compared to the rest of the body. Eyebrows and eyelashes are recognizable. The fetus is about 12 inches long and weighs about 1.5 to 2 pounds. At 26 weeks development, the fetus can respond to sounds that occur both inside the mother's body and outside in the mother's surroundings. The fetus is now about 13 inches long and weighs about 2 pounds. The eyelids open and close. At 28 weeks development, eyelashes and eyebrows are present. The fetus has a good head of hair. The thin, red, wrinkled skin of the fetus is covered with a white, cheese-like substance called vernix caseosa that protects the skin from the drying action of the amniotic fluid. The fetus is about 13 and 1.5 inches long and weighs about 2 and 1/4 pounds. Beginning to get in the correct position for birth, which is head facing down toward the birth canal. At 30 weeks development, the lungs of the fetus become more mature with each week that is spent in the uterus. However, if the baby is born now, it will still need expert medical help. The fetus can control its own body heat. Its brain is maturing and growing rapidly. The fetus is now about 14 inches long and weighs about 2 and 1/2 pounds. At 32 weeks development, vernix caseosa continues to form a thick coat on the skin. The fetus skin isn't translucent anymore, other than the lungs and brain. Most other organs are well formed and ready for birth. The fetus continues to grow and mature. 2 nails are fully formed and the body is filling out or fattening up. And the fetus is now approximately 16 inches long, about the length of a football, and weighs 3 to 4 pounds. At 34 weeks development, the movements and kicks of the fetus are much stronger now. Sometimes this activity can be seen by watching the mother's abdomen. It has already started moving down into the pelvis in preparation for the big day. The fingernails reach the end of the fingertips. The skin is pink and smooth, and the vernix that protects the fetus skin starts to get thicker. The fetus is about 17 and 1/2 inches long and weighs about 4 to 5 pounds. At 36 weeks development, lanugo disappears from the face but remains on the head. Most babies are head down by now, but some are breech. The fetus has fully formed limbs with fingernails and 2 nails. Muscle tone is developed and the fetus can turn and lift its head. The fetus has soft ear lobes with little cartilage. The fetus is about 19 inches long and weighs about 5 to 6 pounds. At 38 weeks development, the fetus can grasp firmly. The skin on the face and body becomes smooth, and the head continues to be the largest body part. The body usually appears plump, and the lanugo is left only on the shoulders and upper body. The 2 nails reach the 2 tips. The fetus is about 19 and 1/2 inches long and weighs about 6 pounds. It is almost all babies born now will live. At 40 weeks development, in males, the testicles are fully descended into the scrotum. The chest is prominent and the breast protrude. Many of their organs and systems like their lungs, digestive system, and the heart are fully developed and are maturing. 40 weeks is officially considered to be full term, so the mother could go into a labor any day. The baby may now be 20 inches or more in length and weigh 6 and 1/2 to 9 pounds.
So now let's proceed to the fetal position. So fetal positions, it is referred to a fetus position in your uterus before birth. So there are 6 different kinds of fetal positions: the occiput anterior, the transverse lie, the footing breech, the occiput posterior, the complete breech, and lastly is frank breech. So we will discuss this later on, and I will give a deeper explanation what it is all about. So first is the occiput anterior. The head is down and back is toward the front of the mother's body. So the medical term for it is the cephalic occiput anterior position. So this is the most common and safest position for a fetus to be born in. So with the face down and turned slightly to the side, the smallest part of the fetus head leads the way through the birth canal. So as what I have said, it is the most common and safest position for birth, making delivery easier. Second is the occiput posterior, or it is cephalic posterior. So the head is down and the back is toward the back of the mother's body. So sometimes a fetus is head down, but it's facing up. With its head up, the fetus is looking at the birth mother's belly. So you may hear this position nicknamed sunny side up. Like occiput anterior, the fetus may be slightly to the left occiput posterior, or slightly to the right or right occiput posterior. So a vaginal delivery may still be safe. In many cases, they will rotate to the face, the back on their own before delivery. If they don't, the occiput posterior position increases the likelihood of prolonged labor and significant back pain. So this position can cause a longer labor and more back pain, but may still allow vaginal delivery. Third, the transverse lie. So a very rare position where the baby lies horizontally in the mother's uterus. So the fetus is sideways lying horizontal across the uterus rather than vertical. So in this position, the fetus back might be down, the back facing the birth canal. So sideways with one shoulder pointing toward the birth canal. So transverse lie is normal in the first trimester, common in the second, unusual in the third, and is not a position where vaginal birth is possible. So this position prevents vaginal birth and usually requires a C-section or the cesarean. Next is a complete breech. So buttocks are pointed toward the birth canal, with legs bent and feet near buttocks. So it is also known as flexed breech. With a complete breech, both hips are flexed and one or both knees are also flexed. So the fetus is sitting with their bottom towards the mother's cervix. Their legs are crossed in front of their body and their feet are near their buttocks. So this breech position makes vaginal delivery difficult and often requires a C-section. Next, footling breech. So one or both feet are pointed downward toward the birth canal. So it occurs when one leg or single footling or both legs or double footling are stretched out below the buttocks. So one or both of the baby's legs would come out first during a vaginal delivery. But a vaginal delivery is never recommended for a baby in the footling breech position. So it is a risky position that often leads to a C-section to avoid complications. And lastly is the frunk breech. So buttocks are down and feet are up near their chest. It is also known as extended breech. This is the most common type of breech position. So it occurs when the fetus buttocks are in place to come out first during delivery. So the legs extend straight up in front of the body with the feet near the head. So the most common breech position, often requiring a C-section for safe delivery.
These are the 3 stages of pregnancy. First, the first trimester. The first trimester, conception to 12 weeks. Things to expect: fatigue and feeling tired, morning sickness, tender and swollen breath, food cravings or food aversions, heartburn, constipation, mood swings, headache. And the things to avoid: beverages containing alcohol, tobacco products, recreational drugs including marijuana. Medical marijuana should be discussed with your pregnancy care provider. Certain food like unpasteurized dairy, raw fish, fish high in mercury. And the next stage of pregnancy is the second trimester. The second trimester, 13 to 37 weeks. Things to expect: women who feel nauseous and tired in the first trimester often feel better in the second trimester. Second, most women begins feeling the fetus move in the second trimester. Third, by about 17 weeks of pregnancy, most women have gained at least 10 pounds. Symptoms: body and muscle aches, weight gain, darkening of areola, dark-colored skin around your nipple, developing a linea nigra, dark line that runs from your pubic bone to your belly button, patches of dark skin. The third stage of pregnancy is the third trimester. The third trimester, 28 to 40 weeks. Things to expect: becoming short of breath more easily, lower back pain which is common due to natural aching of the back when your growing belly pulls your weight forward, needing to pee more frequently, trouble getting comfortable for sleep, your breast leaking colostrum, the first form of breast milk, the fetus dropping into your pelvis to prepare for birth. This is called tightening. Signs of labor like contraction or losing your mucus plug. Those are the three stages of pregnancy: first trimester, second trimester, and the third trimester. That's all. Thank you.